English Easy Podcast.
Hello, learners. Welcome back to English Easy Podcast, your partner to learning English.
It's so great to be here.
It is. And I want you to imagine something for a second.
Yeah.
You know, you are sitting in a really high-stakes performance review. Or maybe it's a super tense negotiation over a quarterly budget.
Oh, those are the worst. The pressure is just...
Right. It's intense. And you need to ask the finance director a really simple question about the numbers. But because you chose, say, a 3-letter word instead of a 5-letter word, you suddenly sound, well, aggressively demanding.
Instead of respectfully polite, yeah.
Exactly. The room just goes quiet. You basically just lost your negotiation, and you're not even entirely sure why it happened.
Which is such a frustrating feeling. I mean, especially when you know the vocabulary.
Yes. So today, we are making sure that never happens to you. If you are an intermediate English learner, you already understand the basics. You know what people are saying around the office.
Yeah, you're tracking the conversation.
But today, we're going beyond just basic comprehension. We're talking about mastering the exact tone, the politeness, and the strength required to navigate a professional workplace, especially in finance and business.
And that is exactly our mission for this deep dive. We're looking at a group of words that are, well, they're incredibly small, but they possess just immense psychological power in conversation.
Small but mighty.
Exactly. We are talking about modal verbs, so words like can, could, should, must, and might.
And, when people hear a grammar term like modal verbs, there's this immediate tendency to just, tense up.
Oh, absolutely. They panic.
Right. Because it sounds like a dusty ESL textbook. It sounds like this tedious lesson on memorizing rules.
It totally does. But we're going to look at the mechanics behind those rules today. Because what's fascinating is that modal verbs act like a dimmer switch on a light.
Okay, a dimmer switch? How so?
Well, think of the main verb as the light bulb. Let's say the verb is approve a budget. The modal verb allows you to slide the intensity of that action all the way up to a blinding, mandatory must approve. Or, you can dim it way down to a soft ambient might approve.
So they control the emotional temperature of your sentence.
Precisely. In a business setting, knowing how to soften your tone to be diplomatic or harden your tone to be authoritative is, it's survival.
It really is. So if the base verb rule, which I know we'll get into, stops us from making embarrassing grammatical errors, how do we stop making the embarrassing social errors?
Right, because saying I must get this report might be grammatically perfect, but
it might also get you fired for sounding incredibly arrogant.
Exactly. So before we jump into those high-level social strategies, we do need to establish the foundational machinery of how these words work.
The basics.
Yeah, we need to look at the one golden rule that fixes, honestly, about 90% of the mistakes intermediate learners still make when they're under pressure.
And that is the base verb rule.
Yes, the base verb rule. And to understand why this rule even exists, you kind of have to understand that modal verbs are what linguists call defective verbs.
Defective, as in, they're broken.
Kind of, yeah. Normal verbs are complete machines. They can take an S for the present tense, an ing.
Walking or walk.
Exactly. But modal verbs are defective. They just don't have those parts. They are just auxiliary gears in a clock.
Okay, gears.
Yeah, they attach directly to the main verb, and they block any other modifications. So the rule is, after a modal verb, you always use the pure base form of the main verb, no changes at all.
Wow, okay. So no S at the end, no ing, no past tense, just the raw action.
Right. For example, if you want to say that a client needs to sign a financial contract, it is completely incorrect to say he must signs.
Even though we are drilled from day one that he always takes an S in the present tense?
Exactly. The modal verb blocks it. The correct mechanical phrasing is simply he must sign.
He must sign. That feels almost too simple, which I suspect is why learners trip up so much.
Oh, for sure.
When you are in a high-stress environment, like a budget review, cognitive load takes over. Your brain is translating, you're calculating financial numbers, you're trying to be polite, and naturally, you overcomplicate the grammar.
They absolutely overcomplicate it. A really classic example is with the word can.
Oh, I hear this one all the time.
Right. Under pressure, people will say, I can speak English. But the base verb rule just strips that away. It is just, I can speak.
Okay, here is where I want to push back, or at least point out a really massive trap that I see learners fall into during official meetings.
Okay, what is it?
When people want to ask a question, standard English requires do or does.
Yeah.
Do you have the budget?
Right, the helper verb.
Exactly. So naturally, an intermediate learner who whose brain is currently focused on an intense financial audit will try to add do to a modal verb. They end up saying, do, you can approve this expense.
Oh, yeah. That is a huge one. And that brings us right back to the gear analogy.
Because you're adding too many gears.
Exactly. Because modal verbs are already auxiliary gears, turning the main verb. Adding do is like shoving an extra unnecessary gear into a clock.
It just jams the machinery.
It completely jams it. Modals never take do or does.
So it is never, do you can approve this. It is just, can you approve this?
Exactly. You just take the modal verb gear and move it to the front of the sentence. Can you help me? Can she send the invoice? Can they finalize the deal?
It is elegantly simple once you actually trust the machinery.
Trusting the machinery is the key,
Yeah,
especially when you're nervous.
definitely. Now, we want to help you, the listener, build some actual muscle memory for this. We are not going to pause the show and wait for you in silence, but I want you to say these correct forms out loud right along with me, wherever you are.
Yes, out loud is crucial.
Feel the rhythm of the defective verb smoothly connecting to the base verb.
Ready? I'll leave a short beat for you to repeat. I can improve.
Perfect.
I can practice daily.
Keep it simple.
I can negotiate.
Excellent.
Can you help me? Yeah, that rhythm is the foundation.
Mm-hmm.
And once you trust that foundation, we can actually transition from the grammar mechanics to social strategy.
Which is the fun part.
It really is. We can move into the territory of soft power.
Which is exactly what you need for official meetings and professional emails, especially when you're asking for financial approvals or favors.
So true. Let's look at can and could. Can is your basic tool for ability and casual permission.
Like, I can speak 2 languages.
Right. Or, can you send me that spreadsheet? It's perfectly normal, functional English.
But functional is not always enough, is it? I mean, if I'm asking my company CEO to approve a massive budget increase, can feels way too casual.
Oh, yeah.
Feels like I'm asking a buddy for a favor.
And that is exactly where you upgrade to could. But, we need to explain why could is the upgrade.
Okay, wait, this is where I get confused, and I know a lot of learners do too. I learned in school that could is strictly the past tense of can. Like, when I was young, I could run fast. Aren't I going to totally confuse my boss if I use a past tense word for a present-day financial request? I mean, why would I say, could you approve this today?
It's a brilliant question, honestly, and their answer involves a linguistic concept called grammatical distance.
Grammatical distance. Okay, break that down.
Well, when you make a request using the present tense, like, can you approve this? It's immediate. It is right in the listener's face.
It's very now.
Right. But when you shift the request into the past tense by using could, you create artificial distance. You are taking a step back.
Oh, wow. Okay. So by using a past tense word, I am literally giving them psychological room to breathe.
Exactly. You are softening the immediate demand. It is no longer right in their face. It becomes polite, respectful, and sophisticated.
That makes so much sense.
Right. Instead of, can you explain the Q3 losses? Yeah. You say, could you explain the Q3 losses? You immediately sound like a polished professional navigating a really delicate topic.
That is just a massive insight right there. Grammatical distance equals social politeness. But what about may? People always say may is the ultimate polite word, like, may I come in?
May is excellent for formal permission. If you are knocking on the boardroom door during a closed session, may I come in is perfect.
Okay.
And both may and might are also used to show possibility or uncertainty, like, we might need to cut the marketing budget, or the client may cancel the contract.
It implies possibility, but not certainty.
Exactly.
So let me ask you this. If I am in a high-stakes business meeting, my heart is racing, I'm sweating through my shirt, should I stress out about using may instead of can for permission? Or, like, panic if I use might instead of may for a financial possibility?
Absolutely not. Please do not waste your cognitive load on that.
Thank goodness.
Seriously. In modern spoken English, even in corporate boardrooms, may and might are largely interchangeable when you're discussing possibilities.
Okay.
Yeah, whether you say the market may drop or the market might drop, your colleagues will understand perfectly. Communication and confidence are vastly more important than rigid textbook perfection.
That is a huge relief. But we still want our listeners to sound incredibly smooth. So let's practice that grammatical distance with could.
A good idea. Let's do a little role play.
Yeah. I am going to play the role of the blunt, slightly demanding colleague using can, and I want you to jump in as the polished professional using could. Listeners, pay attention to how the expert's intonation softens the demand, and try to repeat the polite version out loud after them.
Ready.
Can you help me with this report?
could you help me with this report?
Feel how much nicer that sounds.
There you
Okay,
go.
next one. Can you bring me the financial files?
Could you bring me the financial files?
Perfect. One more. Can you explain that deduction again?
Could you explain that deduction again?
I love that. Notice how the pitch drops slightly at the end, making it an invitation rather than a strict command.
It changes the whole vibe.
It really does. So to make sure you are retaining this before we move to the more aggressive verbs, let's do a mid-session quick quiz.
Oh, I love a quick quiz. Let's test that mental machinery.
Okay, listener, I am going to paint a workplace scenario for you. Think about your answer immediately and say it out loud if you can. Scenario 1. You are at work and you desperately need a busy colleague to cover your shift or help with a task. Would you say, "Do you could help me?" Or, "Could you help me?"
I'll give you a second.
What do you think?
The machinery tells us the answer is, could you help me? Remember, modal verbs are defective. They don't take do or does.
Spot on. Okay, scenario 2. You look at the clock and realize you are 5 minutes late for a crucial budget meeting with the partners. Would you say, "I must to go," or "I must go"?
Think about the golden rule.
What's the right phrasing?
The base verb rule dictates it is I must go. No to, no modifications, just the pure action.
If you nailed those, you are right on track. Now let's dramatically shift the energy.
Let's do it.
We've talked about soft power, grammatical distance, and polite requests. But the reality of a professional environment is that you cannot always be soft.
Unfortunately true.
Right. Sometimes you need to draw a hard line. You need to give stern advice, enforce company policies, or set strict financial limits.
And this brings us to hard power. The tools you need to understand here are should, must, and have to.
So if we go back to our dimmer switch analogy.
We are sliding the intensity way up.
Okay, let's compare should and must, because confusing these two can actually really offend people in a business setting.
Oh, very easily. Because should is used for good advice or a strong recommendation.
Like giving a helpful tip.
Right. If a colleague is making an error on a spreadsheet, you might say, you should double check those cells. Or you should ask the director before submitting this. It is advice. It is helpful.
But if I use must?
Must cranks the dimmer switch to the absolute maximum. It means a requirement is non-negotiable. It's often driven by personal authority or a really strong determination.
So it's not friendly advice anymore.
Not at all. If you tell a client, you must sign this contract today, you are no longer advising them, you are commanding them. It honestly borders on a threat.
Wow, okay. So telling a client you must sign is a major social error. You should probably say, "We recommend you sign," or at least stick to "you should sign."
Definitely.
But what about have to? Because, I hear have to constantly in corporate environments. I have to attend a meeting. I have to deny this budget. Is that just the same as must?
They are very close, but the psychological difference is fascinating. Have to deals with external rules or obligations.
External, meaning out of my control.
Exactly. Things completely out of your control. Like, I have to submit my expense report by Friday because those are the company rules. Must usually comes from an internal authority.
Oh, let me synthesize this, because this is incredibly useful for office politics. What you are really saying is that have to acts as a shield.
A shield like that.
Yeah, because if I tell my team I have to freeze our department spending, I am basically blaming the CFO. It's an external rule. But if I say I must freeze our department spending, I am putting the target squarely on my own back. I am taking the authority.
That is a phenomenal way to apply it. Have to deflects blame, must asserts authority.
That is so subtle, but so powerful.
Native speakers mix them up in casual chat, sure, but in a tense negotiation, that subtle shift is everything.
Okay, but this leads me to the biggest trap of all. Because if must and have to are so similar in the positive form, learners naturally assume that their negative forms mustn't and don't have to are also similar.
And this is where disasters happen.
Exactly. I want to make sure everyone listening gets this.
Yes, this is without question the most vital distinction we will cover today. In the negative form, they mean entirely different things, and confusing them can literally cost you your job.
Let's break it down.
Okay, mustn't or must not means something is strictly prohibited. It is a red light. A hard stop.
No exceptions.
None. For example, you mustn't share this financial data with anyone.
It means absolutely do not do this.
Correct. Banned. On the other hand, don't have to means an action is merely optional.
Optional. Okay.
Yeah, it is a green light, but you can choose whether or not to hit the gas. Like, you don't have to stay late tonight. It means you can stay if you want to, but there is no obligation.
To really cement this for our listener, let's imagine a nightmare scenario.
Uh-oh. Okay.
Imagine an overseas contractor is hired to upgrade a bank's financial servers. And the IT director tells the contractor, you don't have to access the server after 5 p.m. But the director meant to say, you mustn't access the server because there is a strict security freeze.
Oh, no. But by using don't have to, the director just told the contractor that logging in after 5 p.m. was optional.
Right. So the contractor decides to be a really hard worker, logs in at 6 p.m. to finish the job, triggers a massive cybersecurity breach, and the entire bank gets audited.
Wow.
All because someone confused mustn't with don't have to.
It perfectly illustrates the high stakes of grammatical precision in business. Mustn't is prohibition. Don't have to is permission to skip. Let's demonstrate the tonal difference so our listeners can really hear the gravity.
Good idea. I will say the optional phrase, and notice how casual my voice is. Then, listen to how firm and unyielding the expert sounds when delivering a prohibition. Let's do this.
Ready.
You don't have to finish the audit today.
You mustn't leave before the audit is finished.
You don't have to attend the budget meeting.
You mustn't discuss the budget outside this room.
Wow, you really hear the absolute finality in that second phrase. Try practicing that firm tone yourself, listeners. You mustn't do that. It needs to sound serious.
It really does.
So we have covered an incredible amount of ground today. We dismantled the defective verb machinery to understand the base verb rule. We explored the grammatical distance of using could for polite financial requests.
We weaponized should, must, and have to for office politics.
Yes. And we highlighted the catastrophic difference between mustn't and don't have to. But, in reality, we don't use these one by one in isolation.
We don't. True fluency is the ability to shift seamlessly between them in real-time, fast-paced conversations.
It's moving from a strong obligation to a polite request in the exact same breath.
Let's walk through a rapid-fire scenario to show how this works.
Let's do it. Imagine you are in the finance department, and it's the last day of the quarter. It's chaotic.
Right. So your boss walks over and says, you must finalize these numbers by noon. That's a strong internal obligation.
And you instantly reply, I will, but could you approve this single expense first?
Look at that. You create grammatical distance to make a polite request under pressure.
Exactly. Then a coworker overhears and advises, you should just bypass the standard form. We're in a rush.
That's strong recommendation.
And you answer, I can't do that. I have to follow compliance rules.
Boom! You express inability with can't, and then immediately use have to as a shield to deflect the blame onto company policy.
Listen to the flow of that interaction. Must finalize.
Yeah.
Could you approve? Should bypass? Have to follow. 4 different modal verbs, 4 completely different social functions, perfectly balanced to manage the crisis.
That is the ultimate toolkit right there.
It is. And I really want to emphasize that knowing these words doesn't just improve your grammar, it actually reconstructs your professional identity in English.
Reconstructs it how? What do you mean?
Well, think about a professional who only feels comfortable using the word can't. If the finance director asks them to take on a new project, they panic and just say, I can't do that.
Which creates a wall. It makes them look, frankly, a bit incompetent.
Right. But if you take the tools we explore today, you shift the entire dynamic. Instead of I can't do that, you say, I don't have to handle the daily reports anymore. So I could absolutely take on this new project, provided we must hit this specific deadline.
Wow. Yeah, you go from being helpless to being a strategic asset who is actually managing the conversation.
It is a profound shift in mindset. You move from the past inability, what you couldn't do, to your present capability, what you can do, and ultimately to what you will achieve.
I love that trajectory. From couldn't to can to will.
Yes. So, to recap our deep dive today, remember that modal verbs are defective gears. They demand the base verb rule, and they completely reject do or does.
Use the grammatical distance of could to navigate delicate office requests.
Use have to as your external shield. Reserve must for your absolute internal authority, and never, ever confuse mustn't with don't have to unless you want a massive audit on your hands.
Please don't do that. And, as we wrap up, we always like to leave you with a final thought to mull over. We have focused heavily on the present and the concrete today. And there is one final modal verb that we haven't touched on yet, would.
Would. Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah, we use would to talk about imaginary situations, to visualize scenarios that haven't happened yet, but could.
It's like putting the dream into words.
Precisely. So I want to leave you with this question to ponder long after this deep dive ends. What would you do if you mastered this professional vocabulary?
Say it out loud.
Yeah. Would you lead that complex financial negotiation without breaking a sweat? Would you demand the salary increase you deserve? Would you finally step into the leadership role you have been preparing for?
Visualizing that success is really the first gear turning. You hold the mechanics now. You know how these words work.
You absolutely do.
Take this psychological toolkit into your workplace tomorrow. Speak up in that budget meeting. Send that polite but firm email. Because you can improve, you should practice, and you must recognize your own potential.
Beautifully said.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Keep practicing, and we will catch you in the next one.